Welcome to Ticker Talk. I'm Ted Ohashi, coming to you today from the offices of InvestmentPitch in Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm pleased to have with me two guests that have been with me before. David Morgan, founder of the Silver Investor and Morgan Report, and Scott Drever, president and CEO of SilverCrest Mines. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Ted.
Nice to be here today.
David, why don't we start with you? There's been a lot of turmoil in the precious metals market, silver included. So why don't you give us a quick overview of what you think's been going on?
Well, recently, Ted, as you well know, we've had a big sell-off in both gold and silver, and particularly from the high that we saw in the end of April 2011 to present day, silver's off about 53%. So certainly a large correction in a major bull market. Gold is off around 30%. From the high it established in September of 2011. So I think a lot of people have kind of given up, lost heart, and especially the hot money group, the fund managers particularly, they've left the sector and are moving into the stock market. The stock market's making new highs, as most of us know. So I think it's a good time to reevaluate really where this market is. Are we still in a major market, bull market? And we are. And look for companies that really have assets that are proven and have room to show, good cash flow rates and that type of thing. And SilverCrest is one that's been on our list for a very long time, and they have a good cash position currently, and it's growing because they're making about $2 billion on a monthly basis. So that's where I think you should focus. You should focus on the winners right now.
And the silver markets themselves, the gold and silver markets, it seems as though the paper market has led the physical market and is really creating a lot of the volatility.
It almost always does, and I say almost because the paper market does set the price, but there are times, we saw during the financial crisis of 2008 in the retail silver and gold markets, that there were huge premiums, about 30% in silver on the retail side, and you can still buy in the commercial bar form at the set paper price. But that didn't last very long. And we're basically seeing the same thing again now, where there's a huge premium in retail product on silver and not so much on the commercial bar side. But this is something I don't think could go on forever because there's so much of an oversale in both gold and silver, meaning that there's a lot more paper or derivatives out there than physical reality. So you've got a fiat fiction versus a physical reality, and I think the physical reality will take over at some point. I don't think it's 2013. I do think we're getting very close. I think probably in the next year, 2014, people will look back into this time frame and say, geez, what was I thinking? I really should have been buying some of these stocks, some of the metal, maybe the ETFs or whatever. I think it's really an opportunity here.
Well, that's a nice segue to have Scott tell us a little bit about SilverCrest and what's been going on there.
Thanks, Ted. Yes, I think when we last talked, I'm not sure our quarterlies were out or our year end was out, but we had a really good year last year. We did about 70 million in revenues, 40 million in cash flow, and about 30 that translated into to net earnings. So 2012 was a really good year for us. We're on track to do similar types of things this year. Our guidance is about the same in terms of our production at about 2.4 million ounces of silver equivalent for 2013, and hopefully the prices will rebound a little bit here so that we can keep the dollar values up at the same time. Over and above our operation at Santa Elena, we're in the midst of a fairly major capital expansion, about $65 million this year, and that'll take our production up in 2014 to a run rate of about 3.5 million to 4 million ounces of silver equivalent.
So quite a significant increase.
It is, yes. It'll be probably in the order of 60-65% in terms of metal production.
And will you have to do equity financing to get that done?
No, we don't think so. We, at the end of the quarter, the first quarter, we had 48 in working capital, 48 million, and 42 of that was cash. And as David said, we're cash flowing between 2 million and 2.5 million a month, even at these prices. So it might be a little squeaky for my comfort, but we're in the process of looking at some sort of revolving line of credit that would bridge any gap that we might have.
Okay. And at La Jolla, you've got some good things going on there as well?
La Jolla, well, let me back up at or at Santa Elena just for a minute.
Right.
We're in the process of redoing our reserves. We're in the transition between the open pit and the underground. And those reserves will be out in a week or 10 days in summary form. And that's exciting because we found a couple of new zones underneath the zone that we're mining. And it looks like we'll break out at about an 8-year mine life once we have the conventional mill up and running.
Okay.
So that's good. La Jolla, we're in the midst of doing a preliminary economic assessment on that, and we've carved out a high-grade open pit, low strip ratio piece of the major deposit, depending on what cutoff grade you pick. We're somewhere between 200 or 100 and 200 million ounces. And the pit that we're looking at as a starter would be about 100 million ounces of silver equivalent. So once that PEA is done, then we'll have a good grasp on CapEx and operating costs and thing, and see what the timeline we can set for the development of that project.
Okay, so what I hear you saying is you've got good production, you're expanding your production, you're expanding your resources where you're doing the production, and you've got an interesting exploration prospect. So what else would you need, David? I mean,
Well,
it's
if it's
all
my
there.
favorite model, I mean, as I said, we've been with them a long time, and they've come through all the way. I mean, part of it is the management team, and that's always very critical, obviously. And, you know, cash management, and I mean, basically, we're very happy, and still there's room for expansion, and, you know, 65% increase in, you know, a calendar year or so is quite an achievement, especially if you can do it without any dilution or very minimal dilution. So, you know, I can't say much more. I mean, how does it get better than this? I can't think of anything company perspective. How does it get better than this price-wise? Yes, I'd love to see silver back up to into the 30s and approaching 40 again. And I think that will take place, but I'm not looking for that instantly. I don't think it's going to be this year, but I do think we'll see over the breakout area of 26 and 1515 gold. I think we'll be over both of those areas to the positive side, meaning above 26 for silver and above 1550 for gold by the end of this year.
So Scott, at this point in time, are your hands full? I mean, these two projects, or are there other things that you're looking at?
Those two projects, I'd like to get through the Santa Elena expansion and make sure that's done properly, and get that in behind us before we take on anything bigger than that. But we do look at things all the time, you know, things that might match in between the two projects that we have on the run right now, and or things that make sense to acquire that are not dilutive, acquire resources on a pretty decent pricing scale, which we can do at these moments.
Right. And David and I were talking earlier, and he mentioned that, you know, in his newsletter, in his report, he looks at companies that are a little bit upscale from what a lot of people do, and SilverCrest would certainly fall into that category, wouldn't it?
Well, absolutely, and of course we had them on the list again before they've made the strides that they made in the last few years. But again, you know, you kind of get a feel for this. You know who's who. Don't always get it right. I'll admit that we've made some errors. Everybody does, but it's one like some of the others that, you know, you just had to be patient. But they've come through meeting our, you know, what we had forecast and better than that in some cases. So we're very happy.
So, given all the negative stuff about silver and gold and all of that, and the markets are down and stuff like that, I mean, to me, SilverCrest is one of those values that if we look back on this time 2 or 3 years down the road, I mean, you know, we're going to wonder why we didn't own it or own more of it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, any business, I mean, when you look at the stock market, are you buying stock? Well, most people say, I own stock, but really what you're buying is a business. You're buying a company. You know, the idea that a lot of people, at least in America, have, and probably in Canada too, is, geez, I really want my own business. You know, stock markets are the greatest place on the planet. Think about it. You can actually own a business. Yeah, you might not own it 100%, but you can own a business. If you go into business, are you going to be profitable or not? That's the first question you should ask yourself. You can go into the market and buy a business that is making money. All you have to do is some homework. And if you don't have the time to do the homework, find a report that does the homework for you, such as mine. And I'm not saying mine's the only one. There's several are out there. But people don't get it. They rather buy something that sounds wonderful or sounds great at a cocktail party or has some wild story around it or some conspiracy theory next to it or whatever. But if you want to make money, find companies that make money.
And not to embarrass you, Scott, or anything, but having followed your company, I know that there are many other brokerage firm analysts out there that are recommending SilverCrest at this point in time as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct on that, Ted. I think there are 9 analysts right now from a variety of sources that follow us, and their target prices run anywhere from $3.50 to $5 in the next 12 to 18 months. So.
Right. And as we sit here, it's around 2?
Just under, yeah, about 180, I think it was
180,
closed
yeah.
on Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's great. Thank you both for being with me today, and we'll certainly look forward to keeping tabs on the SilverCrest story as it evolves from here. So, David, Scott, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ted.
From the offices of InvestmentPitch in Vancouver, British Columbia, I'm Ted Ohashi.